Beezus and Ramona. I certainly did, answered Aunt Beatrice. The best birthday cake I could find. And that isn't all I brought. Here, help me carry these packages while I carry the cake. We mustn't let anything happen to this cake. And the way Aunt Beatrice laughed made Beezus laugh too. Her aunt gave her 3 packages, 2 large and 1 small, to carry. The little package is for Ramona, explained Aunt Beatrice, so she won't feel left out. Mother came out of the house and hugged her sister. Hello, Bea, she said. I'm so glad you could come. What would I ever do without you? It's good to see you, Dorothy, answered Aunt Beatrice. And what's an aunt for if she can't come to the rescue with a birthday cake once in a while? As Beezus watched her mother and her aunt, arm in arm, go into the house, she thought how different they were. Mother so tall and comfortable looking, and Aunt Beatrice so small and gay, and yet how happy they looked together. Smiling, Beezus carried the gifts into the house. Aunt Beatrice always brought such beautiful packages, wrapped in fancy paper and tied with big, fluffy bows. Aunt Beatrice handed the cake box to Mother. Be sure you put it in a safe place, she said, and laughed again. May I open the packages now? Beezus asked eagerly, although she felt it was almost too bad to untie such beautiful bows. Of course you may, answered Aunt Beatrice. Where's Ramona? A subdued Ramona came out of the bedroom to receive her present. She tore off the wrapping, but Beezus painstakingly untied the ribbon on one of her presents and removed the paper carefully so she wouldn't tear it. Her new book, 202 Things to Do on a Rainy Afternoon, suggested pasting pretty paper on a gallon ice cream carton to make a wastebasket. Oh, Aunt Beatrice, exclaimed Beezus as she opened her first package. It was a real grown-up sewing box. It had 2 sizes of scissors, a fat red pincushion that looked like a tomato, an emery bag that looked like a ripe strawberry, and a tape measure that pulled out of a shiny box. When Beezus pushed the button on the box, the tape measure snapped back inside. The box also had needles, pins, and a thimble. Beezus never wore a thimble, but she thought it would be nice to have one in case she ever wanted to use one. Oh, Aunt Beatrice, she said, it's the most wonderful sewing box in the whole world. I'll make you 2 pot holders for Christmas. Then, as Aunt Beatrice laughed, Beezus clapped her hand over her mouth. The pot holder was supposed to be a surprise. Ramona had unwrapped a little steam shovel made of red and yellow plastic, which she was now pushing happily around the rug. Breathlessly, Beezus lifted the lid of the second box. Oh, Aunt Beatrice, she exclaimed as she lifted out a dress that was a lovely shade of blue. It's just the right shade of blue to match your eyes, explained Aunt Beatrice. Is it really? Asked Beezus, delighted that her pretty young aunt liked blue eyes. She was about to tell her about being Sacagawea for the PTA when Father came home from work, and before long dinner was on the table. Mother lit the candles and turned off the dining room light. How pretty everything looks, thought Beezus. I wish we had candles on the table every night. After Father had served the chicken and mashed potatoes and peas, and Mother had passed the hot rolls, Beezus decided the time had come to tell Aunt Beatrice about being Sacagawea. Do you know what I did last week? She began. I want some jelly, said Ramona. You mean, please pass the jelly, corrected Mother, while Beezus waited patiently. No, what did you do last week? Asked Aunt Beatrice. Well, last week Beezus began again. I like purple jelly better than red jelly, said Ramona. Ramona, stop interrupting your sister, said Father. Well, I do like purple jelly better than red jelly, insisted Ramona. Never mind, said Mother. Go on, Beezus. Last week, said Beezus, looking at her aunt, who smiled as if she understood. Excuse me, Beezus, Mother cut in. Ramona, we do not put jelly on our mashed potatoes. I like jelly on my mashed potatoes. Ramona stirred potato and jelly around with her fork. Ramona, you heard what your mother said. Father looked stern. If I can put butter on my mashed potatoes, why can't I put jelly? I put butter and jelly on toast, said Ramona. Father couldn't help laughing. That's a hard question to answer. But Mother, Beezus began. I like jelly on my mashed potatoes, interrupted Ramona, looking sulky. You can't have jelly on your mashed potatoes because you aren't supposed to, said Beezus crossly, forgetting Sacagawea for the moment. That's as good an answer as any, agreed Father. There are some things we don't do because we aren't supposed to. Ramona looked even more sulky. Where is my merry sunshine? Mother asked. Ramona scowled. I am too a merry sunshine, she shouted angrily. Ramona, said Mother quietly. "You may go to your room until you can behave yourself." "And serves you right, too," thought Beezus. "I am, too, a merry sunshine," insisted Ramona, but she got down from the table and ran out of the room. Everyone was silent for a moment. "Beezus, what was it you were trying to tell me?" Aunt Beatrice asked. And finally, Beezus got to tell about leading Lewis and Clark to Oregon with a doll tied to Mother's breadboard for a papoose, and how her teacher told her what a clever girl she was to think of using a breadboard for a papoose board. Somehow she did not feel the same about telling the story after all Ramona's interruptions. Being Sacagawea for the PTA did not seem very important now. No matter what she did, Ramona always managed to spoil it. Unhappily, Beezus went on eating her chicken and peas. It was another one of those terrible times when she did not love her little sister. "You mustn't let Ramona get you down," whispered Mother. Beezus did not answer. What a terrible girl she was not to love her little sister. How shocked and surprised Mother would be if she knew. "Beezus, you look as if something is bothering you," remarked Aunt Beatrice. Beezus looked down at her plate. How could she ever tell such an awful thing? "Why don't you tell us what is wrong?" Aunt Beatrice suggested. "Perhaps we could help." She sounded so interested and so understanding that Beezus discovered she really wanted to tell what was on her mind. "Sometimes I just don't love Ramona."